Welcome to the LCS webinar. Today's topic is the new charge batch access screen that will be available in the Vision upgrade to 9.1.5. The 9.1.5 upgrade is scheduled for Thursday, April 19th, 2018. The new charge batch access screen will replace the existing charge batch access screen in Vision. Any batches created before the upgrade will be found on the new charge batch access screen. You don't have to worry about having all your batches posted. They will still be there waiting for you. There are some significant changes in 9.1.5. The biggest change is the Charges Legacy tab replaced with the new Charges tab. This will allow you greater flexibility, more search power, and a better overview of your existing batches. You will have the ability to enter search parameters, such as the date created, the batch type, and the resident name. In the old charge batch access screen, you would click the drop-down and then select from the list of charge batches to go into your batch. The new charge batch access screen will list your recent batches in a grid, and you will click the batch number to go into your charge batch. As an overview of this screen, the first thing you will do when you navigate to the screen is select an org level and click Find Batches. Your recent batches will display in a grid. Click on the batch number to open a batch. Uncheck Only My Batches if you need to find a coworker's batch. If you still don't see your batch, you can change the created dates. Generate room and board, importing charges, etc. can still be found under the chain link. To start a new batch, you will click on the New Batch link. You will select your layout within the batch rather than selecting a template before you open the batch. And the print edit list will now be called Validate Batch. You'll navigate to this screen the same way that you have in the past by selecting the Financial tab, the Organization GEL tab, and the Charges sub-tab. The very first thing that you must do when you go to this screen for the first time is choose your org. If you do not have an organization selected, you'll not be able to find any batches. So make sure that you click on that button and select your organization. You can select the top level or any of the levels within your organization. We'll then click Find Batches, and the grid will appear. Most of the time when you come to this screen, you'll not need to enter any search parameters. Vision will bring up the list of your most recent batches, and you'll just click on the one that you want to access. However, you do now have additional search parameters options. Clicking on the batch number opens your batch. Another change is that with the old charge access screen, when you were creating a new batch, you had to remember to select the template before you created the batch. Now, after the upgrade, you'll be able to select your layout after the batch is opened. What was previously called a template is now called a layout. You'll just click on the drop-down and select whatever one is appropriate. Previously, you were used to a button that says Print Edit List. Now this button will say Validate Batch, but still operates the same way and shows you the same report. Once you click on Validate Batch, the link that will come up is called View Validation instead of View Print Edit List. And when you are looking at the report title will be Charge Entry Validation instead of Charge Entry Edit List. Now let's take a look at the search options. The first parameter is to select your organization or a specific level of your organization. Next, you have the created date range. This is the date that the batch was created, not the dates of the charges within the batch. It defaults to the first day of the previous month through today's date. So most of the time, you're not going to have to change the dates unless you've got a batch that has been sitting there for quite some time. Only My Batches is checked by default. You would uncheck this option if you need to find a batch that someone else created. Go to Batch allows you to enter a specific batch number, and it will bring up that batch. Once you have entered your search parameters, click the button that says Find Batches. But we do have additional search options if we click on Show More Filters. That opens up 3 additional search options. The first one is to search by resident. You can type in a resident name, and then similar to other screens in Vision, you would move that name over into the selected window, and then Vision would search for charge batches that contain that resident. You can also select a batch type. These are the batch types that are included: all, adjustments, auto adjustments, charge entry, imports, recurring, and room and board. The last one allows you to select all batches, batches with errors and warnings, batches with no errors and warnings, and batches not validated. Batches not validated would be any batch where the validation batch has not been selected. In other words, you have not viewed the print edit list yet. Now let's take a look at the grid. At the very top of the grid, you have an option that will say Show All Charges. If you click that drop-down, you have the option to choose Show Charges with Errors and Warnings, and then it lists specific warnings that exist in the charge batches that are in your grid. You can select one of those warnings or errors, and then it will show you only the charge batches that contain that error. Break Reports by Facility allows you to change the way that your report will sort. That is your validation report and the charge journal. This heading shows how many charges there are in all of the charge batches together and how many warnings and errors exist within those charge batches. Remember that the number comes after the semicolon or the colon. So it is this message here is not saying that we have 821 errors. It's charges 821, errors 73, and warnings 74. In front of the batch number, there's a little arrow, and if you click on that arrow, it opens a preview of your charge batch. It's going to list the transaction numbers, the residents, and all the information about your charges, including the errors and warnings. You can sort this grid by clicking on one of the headings. For example, you can sort by batch number. You can sort by description, which is the auto-generated description or the description that you named your batch with. You can sort it by the created date, created by, transaction dates, which are the dates of the charges within the batch, organization. The Validate button takes you directly to the validation report, previously known as the print edit list. you have an action drop-down, which is things that you can do with the batch. If you click that drop-down, your options are post batch, edit header info, open batch, and delete batch. The two schedule options are not used. Next, we have this block that lists the charges, the errors, and the warnings. The first column lists how many charges exist in that particular batch. The next two columns list the number of errors and the number of warnings in that batch. If it says NA, that means that the validation has not yet been run for that batch, so it doesn't know how many errors and warnings are in there. Remember that validating the batch is what we used to call the print edit list. Note, validated does not necessarily mean that the batch is valid. It means that the validation report has been run for the batch at least once. When you're going to open a new charge batch, you will click on the new batch link with the green plus sign. That will open up the header window just like you've had before, and you will type the description, something to name your batch, and enter your hash totals if you wish. You will then click Add, and your charge batch will open. It will open in the all columns format, which means you would have to scroll all the way to the right and all the way back to the left. But now you have the option to choose your layout after you have opened your batch. So you no longer have to remember to do that when you start your batch. You click that drop down and it gives you your options that you've had in the past. Once you select your layout, then your charge batch will refresh and you will see only the columns that you need. The chain link operates as it has in the past. You will still find your options there, such as generate Medicaid surplus, generate recurring charges, generate room and board, and those processes have not changed at all. Let's review. The first thing you must do when you navigate to this screen for the first time is select your org level and then click Find Batches. And your recent batches will display in a grid. So most of the time when you navigate to this screen, you'll see your batches there and you'll just click on the link to go into it. Remember that if you're looking for someone else's batch, you'll need to uncheck the Only My Batches box. If you still don't see your batch, you may need to change the created dates if the batch you're looking for was created some time ago. Generate room and board and import charges, etc. can still be found under the chain link. To start a new batch, click on the new batch link with the green plus sign. You will now select your layout in the batch instead of having to select a template before you go into your batch. And print to edit list has become validate batch. Thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions or comments, please start a service ticket for the billing support team, and someone on the team will contact you. Thank you.